this kind of practice of integration, not only integration, but being in deep with the people you are helping is very important. Maybe those are the aspects which have made Chinese to succeed in those parts of the world. I'm just saying what I've seen.
I have...
it may not be your conviction.
One last question that I want to ask you before handing you over to the provost for the questions and answers. If you were to advise this audience about 3 good things that they can learn from Africa, what would be those 3 things that you would identify as important for an American audience?
No, I think first thing I could refer to is solidarity, the value of solidarity. The value of solidarity has worked not only from the traditional societies, but until the institutional frameworks. I most of the time face this question: why does the African Union not have criteria to become a member of the African Union? Contrary to European Union, you should fill some criteria to be a member in order to have quality. We think that if even your brother is not at your level, you should have him on board instead of having him outside. So this value, the second value we spoke about already, the diversity, is also a value we find not only in Africa, we find it also in this country, but in Africa we have enhanced it a lot. We are diverse but united. The third thing, I think, let's say that Africa, as a big continent such it is, has kept for so many years to have one organization, which is the African Union. And whatever can be said about how it functions, which has the weakness, but it has a very, very strong side of having all the Africans together and meet and talk. I think those are the only some of the lessons I can draw at this point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ambassadors. We now have some time for questions from the audience and hopefully some further discussion. I can assure Your Excellency that the questions from the audience will be, I wasn't going to use that word, not easier per se, but less intrusive. What I'd like to see is hands of people who would like to ask a question. Yes, on the aisle on the right, and then we'll get to the question in the back. Yes?
Hi, Ambassador. My name is Nalbir Rahim. I'm from South Africa. So it's really a great pleasure to have someone from home here. I have 2 questions, if I can. First of all, we've all known about the conflict that's been going on in Zimbabwe for many years now between Robert Changirai and Robert Mugabe. What is the African Union doing to try and make the negotiations move more swifter or try to solve something in that region?
That was one question or 2?
The second question, South Africa will be holding the World Cup. So who do you think is going to win the World Cup?
Okay,
Excuse me?
That's not an easier question.
Last question. World Cup. Okay.
2 questions. The first is, what is the African Union doing about the problems in Zimbabwe? And second question, who's going to win the World Cup in South Africa?
Oh. South Africa is going to win. Okay, I start by the last question. Let's come back to Zimbabwe. To Zimbabwe, the The African Union was involved since the beginning. I would just like you to look at the African Union as the mother of all the organizations. The regional organizations are the pillars of the African Union. So the African Union can act in two ways. Going straight from the headquarters, Addis Ababa, or empowering the regional organizations to deal with the crisis. This is the case of Zimbabwe. The SADC has been involved in the crisis of Zimbabwe for many years. I remember I was still a diplomat in Angolan Minister of Foreign Affairs. We had this committee on Zimbabwe already, very long time ago, as soon as the crisis on the land arose. So SADC has been involved as a pillar of the African Union. Second aspect, I know there were some concerns from many of our partners that the Africans are not doing enough to have Zimbabwe, the crisis maybe solved in a different way, even thinking even on a kind of peace enforcement. But we did explain that this was tried by some external players, even in cases like the Congo. It never worked. So you should talk to people. You should let them also talking. And this was done in Zimbabwe. I think things are moved a lot in Zimbabwe at this point. On South African World Cup, I know South Africa is going to win. I congratulate you in advance.
Who would like to ask the next question?
And I was wondering, what do you think is the next step as to Africa stepping more into like the world stage, as in using its resources more, maybe gaining a more economic edge as per se to America and China?
Question is, how can Africa become even more important on the world stage,
Okay.
both economically and politically?
Oh, okay. How Africa, I think, I remember having read Churchill books on history, speaking about Japanese. He was remembering the way he used to, let's say, the way he used to look at Japanese at the time, and as a child. And later on, they realized how Japan developed and is a very well-respected country. So it's the same. I think Africa can only become a player by doing its job also, by working and by changing the today's situation. Second part, Africa, I don't really like the way the world help or assistance. I don't think what Africa needs is to be given the possibility of being of developing itself. Developing itself means opening the channel, opening some barriers which exist in the global economy as well. I think there are external factors also which need to be worked out from the developed world to have Africa playing its role. In the African Union, how are we doing it? We have developed what we call strategic partnerships. strategic partnerships